Welcome back to another edition of the Dirty Verdict podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Peter Taaffe, joined as always by co-host Bill Ogden.
Hey-o.
And Kyle Herbert.
I've noticed a disturbing trend, Peter, where you seem to be introducing Bill first.
Yeah, we're just happy to have Bill. He's a very busy guy, but Kyle, don't think I'll ever take you for granted.
I've got nothing but time for Sammy and Peter.
And Bill wore his costume for our upcoming Halloween episode.
Yes, so everybody said that, or everybody stayed silent when they asked if we were going to be wearing costumes. And so my costume goes over this shirt. But this is a CoffeeZilla shirt. A young gentleman we represented against Logan Paul in a defamation case.
You put a lot of baby powder on before you squeeze into that shirt, or is you just going raw?
It's called an athletic fit. You don't shop there.
Extra euro.
Yeah.
It'd be a costume all by itself.
Exactly.
True. Well, so every week we will either talk about the news, or interview interesting lawyers. And we've got a very interesting lawyer this week, Sammy Ford of AZA Law Firm. Thanks for joining us, Sammy.
Thank you for having me.
Our second AZA lawyer, second of many more to come, I hope.
Have either of you spoken to Sammy about what we're going to talk about tonight?
No.
So I was going to say, we're going in totally cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
I assumed it was just going to be gay marriage, abortion, and the Gaza conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. We might start with Garza. And we could talk about Pam Bondi's testimony today.
Or, testimony.
That's the, we typically I try to avoid politics despite them doing everything they can to interject it into
It's because he's woke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. So Sammy, we'll go into your background a little bit, but I'll say this because we just met for the first time. I did look through your bio earlier today, and after about halfway through, I got so depressed with my career and what I'd done so far compared to Sammy, I couldn't finish it. I had to take a break, call Jennifer Pinkerton and get some counseling, and then before I could resume.
That's not fair, Pete. I mean, Sammy is smart, and so he has excelled. You've done very well considering the amount of amps you have running that engine.
That's true.
So
sure.
Nothing to be shamed of.
I'm not a smart man.
Yeah. So Sammy also graduated from law school 10 years after me, but he's lapped me multiple times since then.
Well,
where are you originally from, Sammy?
I'm originally from here in Houston.
What part?
Born and raised. I grew up in 3rd Ward, Riverside Terrace, southeast Houston.
Yeah. What high school did you go to?
I went to St. Thomas.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. And before that, went to inner city Catholic schools. So it was a somewhat unique experience and, quite a transition to go from those schools to St. Thomas and then from there on.
And did you always know you want to be a lawyer?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When it was time to graduate from high school and choose colleges, I knew that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to get as far away from Texas as I possibly could. I wanted to either do finance or computer science out in California or New York. And so, when I was looking at schools, I was like, what's going to give me the best shot at going to Wall Street or, to Silicon Valley, and chose Harvard. And then as soon as I got there, a lot of stuff started to change. We had a little bit of a .com bubble burst.
Yeah.
We had some downturns in the financial economy, the first one, and then Enron collapsed back here in Houston. So it was after all those things happened that I started to think about becoming a lawyer.
How did you like Harvard?
I loved it. It's, I always tell people everyone should try it. But
were you a friend of Peter Kelly?
I was not. I met Peter for the first time when I started working at Abraham Watkins, and we were out on 6th Street in Austin at Texas Trial Lawyers annual meeting. So it was the first time I met Peter.
I knew you looked familiar. I didn't know why I knew you looked familiar. That makes it.
My efforts to play extremely dumb are only increased the more time I spend around Peter Kelly, because not only do I think he's much smarter than me, I don't think he understands my sarcasm. And it's really a wonderful experience.
He's an incredible lawyer.
He was a great judge.
What did you study at Harvard?
I studied government. So I started off.
That's the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. School of Government.
That's a separate school. So that's like a totally different thing. I was in the college itself. And so, I studied government there. And I still remember, I went there and thought I was going to study economics or business or something like that because I wanted to go to Wall Street. And after the first year, I absolutely hated it. Like introductory economics was terrible. Just hated the subject, or at least knew I didn't want to do more of it. And so, kind of thought about what I wanted to do when I grew up and talked to some people I knew here in town. And they said, it really doesn't matter what you study in college, right? You're going to be able to do whatever you want to because you'll probably end up going to graduate school one way or the other. So do what you want to do. And so I, looked around and
did you study archaeology?
I didn't, though there was something essentially like folklore and mythology, which is like
folklore.
Yeah, that is a legitimate subject of study. It's not a formal department or anything, but you can get a degree in folklore and mythology. I probably should have done that.
What is that?
That would have been awesome.
Like I can guess from context clues, but what exactly?
Like Superman, Spider-Man,
Joseph Campbell on steroids for 3 years or something.
Yeah. I'll say for the kids at home, that advice about it doesn't matter what you study in college, that applies if that college you're at is called Harvard. I don't know if that necessarily applies across the board.
And Bill, is it?
Bill, you say it.
State. I don't use any of my degree.
Yeah.
I got it, but I did get a degree I got a criminal justice degree from the #1 criminal justice school in the world. So, Kyle, what about you?
I don't know. To be honest, I have a diploma, but I've never actually checked with the registrar to see if I actually graduated.
When you look for office, we'll get that sorted.
That will never happen. 2, I don't want to know.
I've had those nightmares.
It's like those paternity tests you keep.
Always held in.
So did you finish the degree in government?
I did finish the degree in government. So I graduated in government 2004. And while I was there, so those last 2 summers, so after my sophomore year and my junior year, I actually came back to Houston and worked for what was then a new litigation boutique. No longer exists. It was Nickens, Keaton, Lawless, Farrell, and Flack.
Some of those are still out there.
Yeah, they're in different places, but that firm has kind of broken up. They got acquired by McGuire Woods in 2010 or something like that, and it was really cool because they were representing all of the inside officers and directors at Enron. So anyone who wasn't Kinlay or Skilling or Fastow, for the most part, was their client, unless during the course of that case they needed specialized or special counsel. And so I got to see these people coming into the office, day in and day out, and it was a super surreal.
What was they? Was they getting sued, or they were? I assume it was on the defense, but they were named, but they weren't really the big actors doing wrong, or they were.
Yeah, I actually don't know if they were sued individually. There was a giant pool of insurance money, right? So insurance was representing all those people.
Every witness got personal counsel.
Yeah, and so some of them may have been sued individually, but what were they accused of doing wrong? Everything that everybody else was.
Yeah. So that kind of got your interest sparked in being a lawyer?
It did. It did. And I also got to see Houston in a different way. Growing up here, Houston was just the Houston that I saw as a high school student. So to the extent that there was anything to do outside of school, it was go to a coffee shop, and there were a couple to go to. It was to go play pool or to go bowling. That was pretty much or to go to the movies, right? This is 1999, 2000. There wasn't a lot going on. But going to the law firm, I got to see nice restaurants and meet all sorts of people, and it was just a much more exciting experience. So I was like, I can come back here. I can live here, and I can do this, I think, at least.
Yeah.
It looks like it's worth pursuing.
Yeah. And so did you go right straight into UT?
Straight into UT. Yeah. So I worked for that law firm again that summer, and then started at UT in the fall. I'm pretty sure that was my first time, or the first time I ever went to Austin was when I went to look for an apartment during that summer. And I always tell folks now, it's like, you don't know how good you have it with Google Maps and everything else, because I got sold an apartment by this apartment locator. And
it was in Buda.
It was nearly that far away. So the first day I drove in, he was like, oh, you can just take Mopac and you'll be on campus in like 5 minutes. And, an hour later, I'm like, where in the world am I living? Why am I here? So anyway, that was my introduction to Austin. It's only gotten worse since then.
On the Harvard government side, is that degree more like the philosophy and theory of different types of governments, or were you like more policy oriented?
So it can be whatever you want to make it. So there are 4 paths you can choose, or you can not choose a path at all. So if you don't want to do honors, you don't want to like write a thesis at the end, you can just take a random assortment of courses. But you can do political theory, which is kind of like political philosophy. You can do American government. You can do international relations. And there's like a fourth one that's a little bit more math oriented. Like,
Ooh, don't do that.
Yeah, I stayed away from that. If I'm leaving economics, I'm not going to government to do
Degree in government because you don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, there's a low rent version of what they're doing over there anyway. So
Nice. Just curiosity. I love government in general. So
All right, UT Law. So did you start clerking for big law firms? I'm sure with your pedigree, they all wanted you.
not all, but I did clerk for V&E and then Andrews Kurth. So I spent that first summer with them, about 6 weeks each.
Did Andrews Kurth do the bankruptcy work on Enron?
I honestly don't know if they did the bankruptcy work on Enron. I think they may have had an Enron conflict because I'm pretty sure they may have done some underlying work for Enron. Obviously, V&E wasn't involved in that like litigation.
Yeah.
just so everybody's clear, Amanda's here with her costume.
Welcome back, Amanda.
Is that Little Debbie?
Better. Like you, Little Debbie? Oh, Dorothy. Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what. And Dorothy was like 12, I think.
We had very different memories of that movie.
Yeah. Sorry for
there's a wizard of something, and it's not Oz. But anyhow, okay. So first year clerkships, which are rare, and you got them at two of the best firms in town. And
you went V&E and Andrews Kurth your first summer.
First summer.
Okay.
Yeah. Things were a little bit different then too, right? These were like, until then, those were the largest classes of summer associates that like either of those firms, really any firm in Houston, had. So we probably had 30 1Ls at each.
What department of V&E were you in?
I did corporate and litigation.
You Kyle Herbert? You'd have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely. No, that's
he's a law partner.
That's right. Yeah. So it was an interesting time because that was when everybody was trying to figure out how to combine or sort of the relative importance of a litigation department and a transactional department at these firms. And the litigators were losing.
They lost. They lost.
Well, the tort litigators for sure.
Certainly there were. I think it's interesting. I look back now. V&E had many lawyers who were doing their drug litigation back then, right? And all those folks were gone within 2 or 3 years of me summering.
I still have a case. V&E is defending on TPC.
Yeah.
And then
I thought that was Baker Botts.
No, Baker Botts is ITC.
Okay.
So yeah, other than that, typically all I run into is like Sussman.
Yeah. I think they've grown the litigation department like some more. So I've seen them on the other side of some securities cases that I've had, et cetera. But a lot of that straight up tort defense is not really there, which is interesting to me because like some of the even bigger firms have really gotten into it. I've heard that Kirkland is often involved in a lot of the, the MDLs and, I know Covington and some of the other big like New York firms are. So it's kind of a strange thing to see that it's gone.
Kirkland definitely is. And as somebody that our firm, as much as we try to fight it, keeps getting involved in leadership positions for MDLs, we run into those exact people. And the B&E case I have right now is an MDL. It's a Texas MDL. And they're representing kind of the target defendant at this point.
Yeah. Single event stuff though is no longer at the big firms. So second year, what'd you do?
Second year, went back to V&E. Wanted to make sure I didn't want to do transactional work. And then I split between Sussman and Beck Redden.
Okay.
Man,
that's
all the big ones.
Yeah. It was fun.
And then, so then you clerk for Fifth Circuit Judge Jerry Smith?
Jerry Smith.
Was that a 2-year deal or a 1?
1 year. And I would recommend that anyone who had the choice would only do a 1-year clerkship. I think you get all the experience that you are going to get as a clerk in that first year. And if you want to do something longer, you can always become like a
staff attorney
or permanent clerk or whatever.
Yeah. Or bouncer. Some people do a district court and then appellate court, or some people do Fifth Circuit or one of the circuit courts up to the big boys.
Sure, absolutely. And that would be something I would recommend doing if you are in that, that category. So one of my co-clerks actually clerked for a judge on the D.C. Circuit afterwards, and then he clerked for the Supreme Court, and he's been doing pretty well since.
Yeah, so Harvard undergrad, UT Law, Fifth Circuit clerkship, all these other summer clerkships. So you've got all the professional box.
He also did a summer in the Carolina Leagues baseball.
Yeah,
I was literally he leaves that off the resume.
Second leading home run hitter.
He hit 280.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Third time you just created a foundation to help, starving puppies. I get it.
No, not at all. But I am in better shape today than I was when I was summering at those firms.
Oh, no doubt.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, not a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
No, I felt bad for the actual associates. I was just thinking, when do y'all sleep / when do you work?
Yeah.
But
the answer to that is sure.
You go to some dinner at like 6 to 8 and you go home, or you go out and they're going back to the office for more work.
Maybe.
Yeah. So with that loaded resume, what was your first legal job as a practicing lawyer?
First legal job was at Sussman Godfrey.
Got it.
I was there for 2 years. And I spent the vast majority of my time on 2 cases, maybe 2.5 cases. One was this arbitration that was based in Atlanta, but was really against a big investment bank in New York, which was I don't know if the case was interesting, but it was they blew up a $500 million hedge fund, right? So they had, this is during the financial crisis. So
08?
08, yeah. So this is sort of like the theme of my career, and everybody else who's like, about my age is, every time you're starting to make these professional jumps, the world seems to collapse. So anyway, the downturn happens, and, markets are crashing on a daily basis. And so these banks get super nervous and they start doing margin calls, which, some individuals have been dealing with like recently.
Yeah, like now.
Now, right now, exactly right now, when the market is super volatile, you can get into it. And so this was what was supposed to be a very, very stable hedge fund. They sold out of the money options, which, every time I hear people say that now, because I've seen it like pop up on, people giving you advice, financial advice on Instagram or wherever else, you shouldn't be getting financial advice. And it's always like, oh, you can make a ton of money just selling options. Just make sure you sell them.
I get it.
Out of market.
Bill and I have all our money invested through Bitcoins that we found through Reddit.
Don't. I mean, that's probably the best.
But this is, all right,
I know.
How did you buy your first Bitcoin?
Me?
Yeah.
I gave Bill a bunch of gold coins that I had maybe gotten from an old lady over near Conroe, and then he took those to a kiosk, and as far as I understand it, we've got all kinds of coins now.
So I bought my first one probably a month after Coinbase went live.
Okay.
So it was probably 2016. It was like $8,100.
Okay.
So
you're rich. In electronic
I was wealthy. Wealthy people sign rich people's checks. No. Kyle Farah and I were at lunch, and we had been talking about it and trying to do research on our own, and then discuss and explain it to the other person of what it was. To this day, we still cannot. I can give you all but I can convince you that I know what it is. But he bought substantially more than I did. He's substantially in a better spot off of that investment than I am right now.
Yeah, I bought my first Bitcoin, and I really wish I had bought a lot more. But I was out with some friends. I think it was my wife's birthday or something. We were at like one of the creeks. I think it was Cedar Creek in the Heights. And I went in to the ATM, and the ATM was one of those like super early on. This was, probably 2014, 2015. And it was like, you can get money out of the ATM, obviously, or you can buy Bitcoin. I was like, I'm going to buy it.
I've seen them now. I didn't know they were that early.
Yeah. So I bought some Bitcoin. I had this little receipt, and then I totally forgot about it. totally forgot about it.
But you kept the receipt.
I kept the receipt somewhere, and maybe I took a picture of it. I mean, and when I say I bought a little bit, I bought like $20 worth. This was not an investment. It was mostly a joke, because afterwards I went.
Still is to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably is, and but I go back and I show everybody, I'm like, I bought my first Bitcoin. Everyone thinks it's the stupidest thing ever. And then a few years later, probably like 5 years ago at this point, I find the receipt again, and it still works. So I'm able to like take that Bitcoin, which is gone from like $20 to
15 grand probably.
Not that much, but like 300 or something. Like it was a really good return for a ticket, right? I mean, like no lottery ticket I've ever purchased has had that kind of result. And so I still have that Bitcoin in the wallet somewhere. But
you just bought one?
I bought $20 worth. I don't even know how much Bitcoin it was back then.
So you're doing
it was 122,000. Did you?
It did. Well, yeah, that's not my
So you're doing financial stuff at Sussman. Who were some of the lawyers you were working with there?
So I worked with Vineet Bhatia, who is the managing partner there now.
I just got done with a golf trip to Northern Michigan, and it was a tournament, and we got matched up against him. And at the last hole, he covered to just tie, which just irked.
Who was his partner and who was yours?
It's another. He had a Hispanic last name. I can see his face. I can't think of his name. He's been there. He was in the original group.
Sussman.
Yeah, Sussman guy. That was the first time I'd ever met Vineet, and had an absolute pleasure
Rivera
with him. Yes.
Yeah. There are
What's his first name?
Well, now you're put me on the spot. It'll come to me eventually.
But yeah, he was the one that frustrated me. He's every bit of maybe 140 pounds and hits the ball further than I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sussman guys are like good at everything.
Yeah.
Right.
I learned that the hard way because I thought we were going to just absolutely roll them, and we did not. But they were super nice guys, and that was the first time I got to hang out. You get to hang out with somebody for 5 hours. People are walking. You don't have anything to do besides get to know each other. So very nice guy.
Yeah, one of the other people another person I worked with at Sussman, Jeff Harrison, who everybody knows, was also the first person I ever met who they talked about like 36 holes in a day or something. It was incredible. I mean, just like how much golf he played when he was playing.
Oh yeah,
playing. So it doesn't surprise me that they were.
I had several cases against his wife.
Yes, Lauren. Yep.
And she and I, after she filed 2 motions for sanctions against me, we became friends. And
3 where it crosses the line, but 2 is good.
I'll be honest. After 2, I think Judge Rosenthal signed an order that Lauren couldn't file any more motions for sanctions against me without leave of court,
Okay.
which is always a compliment.
yeah, it's a vest of honor.
But I think I still get their holiday card. Talk about unique individuals.
Oh, they're great. Yep.
Yeah.
I still went.
Robert.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
I still remember going. I won't reveal her age or anything, but I remember going to like one of her big birthdays when I was still an associate there, and it was like this big party at Tony's, and I was like, this is living.
Yeah. So I had this case against her for a couple of years, and it finally got resolved, and we were friends again. And I got a holiday. I don't know if it was a holiday card or what, but I got a very large, glossy photograph of them renewing their vows at the little chapel in Las Vegas. And
in a costume or regular, like Elvis stuff?
My recollection is Jeff is in like jeans and a Metallica shirt, but Lauren is in what could only be called a costume. Like if there was such a thing as a female Elvis impersonator with like a lot of fringe.
Yep.
And I still have that someplace. They seem like just awesome people.
It's a great story for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 years, go ahead.
What made you leave Sussman?
That's right.
So I spent the majority of my time, like I said, working on 2 cases, and both were these really big cases that involved a lot of documents, but not really a lot of substantive work, right? So, I didn't get a chance, and this was a function, I think of just like the cases you could put on, and also the timing, with everything else that's going on. It's what's in the door at that time. And so I just felt like I didn't get the experience that I kind of wanted to make sure that, maybe it's still early enough in my career, early enough in my life that if I don't want to be a trial lawyer or a lawyer, I'd like to figure this out sooner rather than later. And so, though I had like some good friends there and, great experiences, I called a friend who had become a recruiter at the time. She actually started off at V&E, and she was like working at, one of the headhunter firms. And she was like, "Have you considered Abraham Watkins?" And I was like, "I have no idea what that is. I've never heard of this firm.
Me either.
Had never had any interest in doing personal injury work or anything else." And but she was like, just go meet with them, go see what they're offering, and see if it's something that you might like. And so I remember I went and I met with. It was primarily Randy and Benny, and I met with Nick Nichols as well. Those were the three partners there at the time. And I was like, I actually like these folks. It's like a super different type of practice.
But yeah, that's for sure.
But in their field was sort of at the same level, as Sussman, right? So it was just like,
yeah, they're just on the other side.
Yeah, two different worlds, and you didn't really see it. And at that time, Sussman didn't do any PI defense work, really. So, it was just like, wow, this would be a interesting opportunity. I talked to some folks who had been mentors of mine from, like prior times. They were all like, this is a great firm. You really should take a look at it. So I did, and I went, and I was there, for 5 years, tried 20 cases, in front of judges and juries. And
who were you working with kind of more while you're there?
So back then, no one in particular, right? So I tried, I think I was thinking about this recently. I tried 3 cases with Randy, 2 arbitrations, and then 1 complex pain case down in Wharton. I tried 1 case with Benny, which was a case against a contractor for GE about an electrical explosion.
Sounds like Benny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The good stuff.
And then, and that our co-counsel on that, well, not co-counsel, but Craig Seco was the other lawyer
very good
on that. And I was super impressed with Craig. I had never met him before, and that was the last time we had a case, together as well.
Never met him before. You lived your entire life having never gone to Corpus Christi?
The Corpus Christi.
No, not until then. I've gone a few times since.
And thought of nothing else since.
That's great. Well, between Corpus and San Antonio, that's where it seemed like all the big plaintiffs' lawyers were for a while.
Nah, that's where they practiced.
Yep. Well, that's fair. That's fair. And so, I tried a case with Brant and Mo, and then there was a guy there who was there then, Johnny Garza.
I know Johnny well. Him and Miguel doing well together.
Yeah, Johnny and I tried our first case, or like my first case together as like lead counsel. It was that first December that I was there. So I think I started, I want to say like November. And
what year are we? 2010?
20.
Past that.
Yeah, I think it's 2010.
Okay.
Yeah, November 2010. And we're at the firm holiday party.
It's a little bit bigger these days.
It is bigger, but it's probably tamer.
Way tamer.
Though, I mean, I feel like it's sort of gone down or sort of gotten tamer with time. It had already tamed from, the years before I got
Once
there.
they took it out of the office, so you couldn't go get the secret good stash of booze upstairs.
Yeah,
that's when it tamed down.
Social media ruins everything too.
I agree.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So we were
when back then they would give you like penicillin and tetanus, and your question was like, you want it on the way in or the way out?
Yeah, and the only food options you had were the fajitas that were impossible to get to. So really, your food options were.
A lot of people back then would say you could have a tequila. The food is further down.
That is true. That is how it went. And so I remember I'm sitting there or standing there, and Judge Wyman comes in, and he's like, I'm starting a trial tomorrow, and this guy is, I think he was a plaintiff. He had to be a plaintiff. And he's like pro se. I think he needs someone to represent him. That was like the last thing I had on my bingo card coming to work today or coming to this party tonight was that I had to be up at
and go to trial.
One thing you have is time right now.
Well, it's just like I've never done this before, at least, like lead, and, we'll see. So I remember I showed up, and this puts it into perspective. My notice of appearance was handwritten on a yellow sheet of paper from like a yellow legal pad, and I handed it to the judge, and he gave it to the clerk, whatever. So he went and tried the case. The facts were terrible, so we obviously lost. But it was, that was my introduction to.
But thanks, Judge Wyman, for wasting my time.
First trial, though. First trial as a lead lawyer, and that was
I think best mustache on the bench that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's in the top 5. Post Civil War.
What's he do now? Is he media? I haven't seen or heard.
Visiting judge, mediate.
I just haven't run across him since.
Yeah,
I like Judge Wyman.
It doesn't sound like it was really like a, hey, Sammy, you think you might want to do this? It was kind of like, yeah.
Well, you just, when a judge asks you, you really don't have an option, right? Especially if it's, it was a 2-day or
federal judge
day
or state judge, because I told a lot of state judges, not for me.
I probably would turn it down now. I have a little bit more going on.
You've got associates that can do.
That's exactly right. So yeah.
So how many years at Abraham Watkins?
I was there 5 years.
So you tried cases with Johnny, Brant, Mo, Billy, and Randy. Who's the best one?
Oh, I'll say this. No, that's an impossible question to
That's
answer.
not true. There's a right answer. The answer is Sammy Ford.
But well, as the the unifying part of
Brought those guys together.
Yeah, look at him now. It's everywhere. Augusto, Stogner, or Augusto Aziz and Stogner.
That's right. So I never met Friend. His name was on the file for a very long time, and he was living in Colorado as far as I knew. And I think just before I started, he would still come to the Christmas party. But
I franked that for my career so bad.
Frank Abraham's West Ball would still come. So that was and that was pretty awesome, actually. So anyway, I will say this. I think they all have different strengths and skills. One thing I learned from Mo pretty early on, which is something I needed to learn because we were trying a case in federal court, and
You want us to guess what you learned from his?
Sure, yeah.
Work ethic.
Well, that was an aberration work ethic.
That is
attention to detail.
Yes, though that last point was a little bit sort of, not fully the lesson. So we were trying to get some findings of fact or something done, and I kind of was approaching it like I did bench briefs and other things for like my judge, or at Sussman, where you have like 2 or 3 cases and you're working all the time anyway, so you're just like laser focused on that task. And I just remember Mo was like, it has to be good, but you can't spend all of your time on it because there's more to do, right?
Good still wins.
And so, that was something I learned. And that was like a weird case because it wasn't a PI case. He was representing a recruiter who had sent this group of partners to a pretty big firm, and they said that they didn't use the recruiter to ultimately hire them because there had been some period of time in between. So she got her finder's fee, and that was like a pretty cool case.
Nice.
And then, Randy was one of those folks who just had like so much stuff going on at all times. I remember every time I was like, how are we going to try this case? I know, Randy works a lot, was always working, but I was like, when are you going to, or how can you focus on like what's going on here? And we had this arbitration, which I had like worked up until it was time to start the arbitration. And that was a fun case because they completely underestimated us and everything else. And I remember the lawyers told me after they deposed my expert, they said, like, Sammy, when are you going to drop this case? You cannot be going to the arbitration with that clown. Like, those are the literal words out of their mouths.
You were like, don't call Randy a clown.
Sammy, watch out. Look over. Oh, my God. Whoa. He would have got me.
If he breaks my window.
Yes, I was.
You will pay. It's Michael Myers making an appearance.
Classic Metzger.
Yeah. We got some extra life insurance on you, Sammy.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so everyone change your pants.
Joke's on you. I'm not wearing any. That's part of my costume.
All right. So, Sammy, how many years at Abraham Watkins?
5.
So that takes you 2015. Where'd you go next?
That's when I started at AZA. So I've been there for almost 10 years.
So how'd that come about? Because that's a change from 2 top flight firms, but kind of different.
Sure.
Different firms.
So
types of firms.
Yeah. When I was at Abraham Watkins, there was a guy there who was an associate who actually, I met him, and he asked me to introduce him to the folks at the firm, and I did. Eric Gerard, who now works with Randy again. And I just remember, we were sitting one day and just like talking about, the future or whatever that looks like. And at that point, AZA had started to like enter my radar a little bit more.
We were talking about the future. I was like, and then a game show host is going to become president.
Just a little bit before that.
Different future.
The future is one thing you can't predict. And so anyway, we were talking about AZA. And like later that year after he had left Abraham Watkins, which, funnily enough, in the interim, he introduced me to my like now wife, and then he and his wife like left town and went to Florida. So anyway, they this recruiter calls, was like, "Have you ever heard of AZA? Would you be interested?" It's like, well, I'm not like looking to go anywhere, but it's kind of this firm that I've had in the back of my mind for a little while. So, and I knew some folks who were there, including like Lizzie Fletcher, who had I knew her from my time summering at V&E, and she had gone over to AZA a few years earlier. So I was like, I'll go meet with them and see. And, I really enjoyed it, like the people. And I thought it was like this interesting mix of the two firms, right, of Sussman and Abraham Watkins. And that's actually, proven to be true in terms of, there's a lot of camaraderie amongst the lawyers. We work on a lot of cases together. Those trial teams change from time to time. There's not like a silo. It's not like, you're assigned to this partner and therefore you work on like all these cases. Everybody kind of works together. The types of cases are super different. So, you still have a lot of like your standard commercial litigation, your arbitrations. But PI, one of the very first cases I worked on there was we represented a family whose husband had been killed in an 18-wheeler accident, right? So I wasn't fully expecting to do a lot of plaintiff's work when I went there, but that was the first case, that I worked on. I've done a few since then. So
yeah, we had Thomas Frazier on, talked about the Sad Beige influencer trademark case, and then hopefully going to have one of your colleagues on to talk about the Barstool and Pat McAfee defamation or similar one. And and then obviously John, you can see him doing he did the Landry's trademark case, the hospital, I guess, kind of billing cases.
So I tried that case with John, not the one in Vegas, the first one. So before Vegas, we tried one in front of Judge Collier. This was still during, COVID was still such that you had to wear a mask, or you could take it off if you stood at like the lectern, but no trial lawyer stands at the lectern. And so
they call it a podium.
A podium, yeah, same thing. And
called wooden stand thingy.
One thing to talk to John about, if you ever have him on, is like he is very particular like what kind of podium he wants in his trials. But anyway, we tried that case. It was
Who isn't?
Well, if you don't, then that tells me you don't use them that frequently.
Well, when I watched John in a couple of trials, it seems like the podium is just a prop that he kind of walks around and then touches it and then it's it's like a home base kind of thing.
Exactly.
I'm sure there's some trial advocacy thought about that. He's coming back to like
center,
bring a point home.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so we tried one. I think that was the first. That was not a contract case. They had one in Tennessee. Right before that, that was essentially a breach of contract case against some of the same people. But we got, I think that was an $18 million verdict. Unfortunately, the Texas Supreme Court took it and a lot of other things away from us.
Plaintiff side? No way.
Well,
if you need any help on some Supreme Court appeals, you let me know.
Right.
Kyle's 1-0.
Wow. I got to sign a headshot of him in front of the Supreme Court in my office.
Yeah, well, I will say I'm very, we should all be very skeptical of implied causes of action now in Texas. So this was like, that was it. There's like a statute that says you have to pay emergency providers a reasonable and necessary amount for their services. That is the statement. But they've now found, and the courts of appeals also agreed with them. So just that, that means that the commissioner of insurance can sue can regulate the insurance companies to require them to pay a certain amount, but that the people receiving payment don't have a right to seek that amount themselves, which, is...
What do they call that? An administrative remedy?
Essentially, yeah.
I hate those.
Well, you had this recent case involving Hurricane Uri, or was it not? Winter Storm Uri, sorry.
Yeah, Winter Storm Uri.
Yeah, that was the most recent, I think, success you off your website.
Sure, yeah, that case we tried in May of this year. We represented an oil and gas producer in Oklahoma. And like with Winter Storm Uri, any of us who lived in Texas or Oklahoma at that time has pretty vivid memories of going days and days and days without power. Our neighbors had toilets exploding, etc. And so our client declared force majeure against a trading company.
Trading,
Coke
Trading.
Energy. Yeah, like a broker.
power.
Yeah, so Coke Energy, which they do
KOCH?
KOCH. They do a lot of things,
I
but
heard those two guys.
they trade really everything. I mean, oddly enough, I've had a lot of cases against trading companies, and they'll trade anything. And so we declared force majeure, or the client declared force majeure, and they rejected it. And so we go down there to try whether or not our declaration of force majeure was valid. Two other things about that. One, they sort of withheld some, about $9.8 million in fees that they owed us for the purchase of gas that they did buy from us.
That had already gone through.
And so they netted it against this damage model that they came up with about a year and a half into trial. So their original model, and these are all sort of exhibits in trial, they said that, we owed $9.8 million or $9 million, something like that. But with their expert and others, they came up with a model of $123 million.
Expert do that.
So, and we got the expert who came up with that model. I got him to admit that he was the $123 million man on the stand because he had been talking to really any and everyone during breaks that he had come up with this model. He was very proud of it, and I wanted to make sure the jury knew that their expert was very proud of that number. And so, we tried it for just about 6 days, federal court.
Hey, that's fast.
Yeah, well,
I guess it's only like one expert for one expert.
No, there's more. We had lots of people, but and we didn't even have full days. So we were in front of Judge Simlake, and one thing about federal judges, they are super protective of their juries, especially because their jurors come from like such a broad geographic area. So, we had somebody who was a juror in College Station.
Coming to Houston?
And one reason we knew this was because there was a storm on its way. So he had us wrap up the day at like 2 p.m. so they could get home before the storm hit. So not only did we do it in 6 days, we did it in less than full, trial days. So there's a lot of cutting and, we're trying to get this, wrapped up. We get it to the jury and it takes them 2.5 hours or so to come back with the verdict in our client's favor, though for that first 2 hours, they were waiting for the exhibits to go back. So I think they were ready to...
They read the charge quickly.
They read the charge quickly. They knew how to get out quickly, and it was just, did you validly declare force majeure? Yes, then they could go home.
2.5 hours scares me, especially if you're on the plaintiff side. Just because you're I mean, at least...
I think you were kind of defendant in that case.
We were the plaintiff. I mean, we sort of went first and everything else because we filed the case first, but, and because we had the burden of proof to, prove the force majeure. I think a longer period of time would have worried more because if they got to the damages, it was actually a pretty complicated calculation because we both had different models of what the damages would look like. And so if they were, and it was day by day, volumes by volume. So if they said, you underdelivered X amount on this day, they could come up with the number. So that would have taken some time.
What was his verdict?
That May of this year.
Ooh, so they got hit with a big interest charge on it.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because once the rates went up, you got to pay that for your pretrial interest. That's got to be big.
Yeah.
Well, what the force majeure, was your client obligated to provide some energy to the trader, and they said we don't have to provide that anymore because of the storm, force majeure? we're basically out of our obligation to do that. And they said, no, you're supposed to provide that, and we've been damaged because you didn't do it.
Yeah, so we were supposed to, or we had a contract to provide a certain volume of gas at a location in Oklahoma. And the force majeure fundamentally was, look, our wells are down. Some of the pipelines are down. The plants that process the gas and compress it so they can go further, a lot of them are down. So our volumes are much less than they need to be for us to give you the gas. We'll give you what we can, but we're declaring force majeure on any amounts that we can't.
Which everyone was doing.
Everyone was doing. So this is why it was such an I mean, there's a lot of litigation that popped up right after Winter Storm Uri. Most of the folks who were, I would say, like multi-dimensional players, or folks who were maybe buyers and sellers of gas, just depending on the circumstances, most of that litigation got resolved.
Are most of those have arbitration clauses or some alternative dispute?
I think that most of them, some do, but I don't think it's the majority. I mean, it's kind of hard to know, right? So unless they are trying to confirm or overturn the arbitration award, you don't really see those. The ones that I saw were all in court, and there were a lot of cases that were filed in the aftermath. So I would assume, since they had their contracts, they probably weren't filing in court when they could have filed in arbitration.
Yeah.
Soriel, and so was Coke Trading not a Texas entity?
No.
Okay, that makes sense, because I was trying to figure out how
it's a Kansas or something.
Yeah, they're in Kansas. They removed the case though, so we filed it in Texas court.
So they were trying to get you for damages, and the judge said the jury said force majeure properly invoked, so therefore you didn't owe them anything.
Right.
And they owe you 9.8 plus
interest.
Prime,
got it.
Plus an interest that had spiked by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, that's the thing about AZA too. What are some of the other interesting kind of different cases you've tried?
Yeah.
Or litigated to conclusion?
Sure. So a couple of years before that, I was talking about sort of these cases against trading companies. I represented the Port of Houston in a case against Louis Dreyfus. And we all know Louis Dreyfus, to the extent that you've heard the name, you may have heard it because of Julia Louis Dreyfus, right? And she is connected to this company. Her dad was related to or was a part of it or whatever. It's a huge trading company based in France. But in addition to doing that, they also broker and store and transport grains. So they rented a grain facility from the Port of Houston. And there aren't a lot, but there's like this elevator, and it's how they got, some grain. They had an obligation to return it in a certain condition. And I mean, the short of it is they just didn't. That was a fun case to try because that was, if not the last, one of the last cases that Lynn Hughes in federal court tried. So that was a very interesting experience.
I love that guy, and he loves me.
It's
false.
True.
He likes you?
Loves me.
Does he know you're a plaintiff's lawyer?
I've had really good results in his court. He seems to treat everyone very fairly, so far as I can tell.
Well, I will say the very first time I had a case in his court, he had this reputation of being sort of anti-plaintiff's lawyer, and I go in, and it's not just a plaintiff's case. I am doing a securities class action, which a lot of folks don't really like. And I walk in, and he's like, "Oh, you're with Abraham Watkins. I love those folks." And he just kind of like went through in his mind like all those lawyers from the 50s and 60s who were, at Abraham Watkins. The firm looks and is a lot different today and was, but I was like, I'm more than happy for you to see me through the eyes of, Abraham and Mr. Watkins. Yeah, just call me whatever you want to. So anyway, we tried this case, and it was, interesting again because we got, compressed on time. It was the first time I've ever, and I think the only time I've had a court cut my cross-examination short. And I'm not one to spend a lot of time or like long time on crosses. That's just not much
to say. He's dead already. Quit kicking him.
He told me to stop 8 minutes after I started crossing the guy. And it was on the last day, and he was like, "You're going to stop your cross right now, and we're going to close after lunch. This is at 10:30. We're going to close after lunch." Right.
I'm sorry, Judge. Is this boring?
I know. I was like, what's going on? I mean, none of this is planned, right? And I think it was that witness was doing so bad because one of the things that was so interesting about this case is they made a big deal about how none of the things that we were pointing out were wrong with the facility, like really needed to be done. They were all, just made up. Well, we find out in discovery that 2 years before the end of the lease, they commissioned their own investigation of the facility because they were like, well, if we extend the lease, what do we need to do? And they had this list of things. It was like what needed to be done in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. They did 0 of those things. Their plant manager, who oversaw a lot of that stuff, continued on because the facility was used by someone else at the end of their contract, became a very good witness for us because he talked about, I wanted to do all these things. They refused to.
He had to do once they left.
They didn't want to spend the money. So and so I think, again, this is one of those cases where somebody, tells you, you need to drop this case. It's a bad case. Or this is, we're in the middle of COVID and who knows how this is going to turn out. And the jury gives us, I think, again, like $25 million, which was every dollar that we asked for in closing, which was everything they said needed to be done that they didn't do and a little bit more.
So I have one question kind of more on the broad side, which is, it seems like at least your practice at AZA is got all kinds of different shapes and colors. And is that a lot of like general counsel for companies come to y'all, or where does is that where you get most of your business? Cause it is kind of a niche market where we need to litigate and we need to have somebody that'll kind of take a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So we do have some, institutional clients, some folks that we've represented in case after case after case. And that can spin off all sorts of, different types of things. It could have started off as, employment disputes, and then you're representing them on like breach of contract stuff and then some personal injury stuff, whatever. So that's a part of it. But there's a lot of one-off, cases, or even cases for those clients where other people may have handled the case up to a point, and then it's time for trial. And so you get called in. And I mean, that's a pretty common, thing for us. One of the things I remember that like Steve Sussman used to say in terms of like developing some of these clients that I thought was really interesting. He was like, if you just tell people, I don't want to take your client. I just want that case. Yep. You can keep the client. I just want that case. And I think that's like a good approach to some of these more unique one-off type things. I mean, and this is, coming from someone who does have, some clients who, come case after case, but I don't only want that because I don't want people to be overly protective. I mean, I think it's always
anybody out.
I'm not cutting anyone out. I always think it's in the client's best interest to have the best lawyer who can, try the case. And if that's me, great. If it's somebody else in my firm, great. And, and that's what I like to tell people too.
Cool.
Good. So. Well, okay. So advice to young lawyers, you, like I said, you built a very good resume and then worked at 3 of the best firms in town over the last 20 years. So any advice to young people, young lawyers on how to develop a career like you've had?
Yeah, I think I'll take it like one lesson from each firm, which I think is kind of a helpful way to do it. Maybe one lesson from that and one lesson from my clerkship. On the clerkship portion, especially in this day and age and not, to get into politics, I think that there is a lot of, polarization that's out there. And I think it's really important, especially for young lawyers, to not cabin their careers overly narrowly and sort of like,
talking to you, Kyle.
We don't do this sort of stuff because, of whatever. Like things change, and I think that's important. With Sussman, I still think like Steve Sussman was one of the best law firm administrators of all time. And he developed these rules, a lot of which are now part of the rules of civil procedure, but they were all designed to make sure that when you're fighting in your case, you're fighting over what matters and not over, things that don't matter. So, he proposed a long time ago, just like the federal rules, we're not going to share draft expert reports because we all know how to protect or how to sort of get around that rule. And it's just, it's phone calls, and then you had Zooms and whatever. And it was like more make work than it was substantive. So let's make this about, substantive things. And so it's trying to find common ground where you can with opposing counsel so that when you do have real fights, they're that much more valuable.
So yeah, Sammy, he had it was like 10 things that he would talk to the opposing lawyer right off the bat and say, can we get on the same page?
Sure.
With this? I've tried to find those. Are they out there in the interwebs?
They are. They used to be at a website called trialbyagreement.com. I don't know if that website is still up. He also started a trial academy at NYU. And I think they had them there. So I would recommend looking there.
I sent that to several opposing lawyers on relatively large cases that deserved that level of attention. And about half the lawyers said, yeah, I appreciate that. That's great. I agree to it. And then about another half said, why would you send this to me? I already do that.
Yep. No.
And then the ones that said, yeah, why would you send this to me? I already do that, were fucking lying. They definitely did not do.
Coming from you, they thought it was definitely a trick. Yeah, this is a trap. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Right. So what was the lesson from Abraham Watkins?
So the lesson from Abraham Watkins was to get involved with the bar. So that was one thing that, Randy and Benny, for that matter as well, like really, emphasized because, I remember Randy said, you have to join a bar. It can be the bar you go to after hours, or it can be, the bar.
Bill, Chili's doesn't count.
Yeah. So
you can't just go to Chili's. And
I think Chili's is actually an excellent place for
a bar.
For a place to develop business.
Yeah, long
Chili's bar.
Yeah. And if you don't,
with Baytown Chili's,
you can always have the Southwest egg rolls. There's a reason that Chili's is the only fast casual restaurant that's still doing well. Everyone else, all the slop bowls are down. And so just being like super involved. As involved as you can in the bar.
That's like a branding thing, just in general.
Yeah.
Knowing as many people as you can.
The number of people I know today who I met just through like bar activities, judges, et cetera, where, it wasn't about business. That was great. And then I think at AZA, one thing that John has been very, very good at doing, in addition to being a good trial lawyer and all the rest of it, is like marketing, right? So that would be the last piece. It's like, be good at your cases, be good in your community, and then also make sure that people know that you are good.
Mm-hmm.
Those would be the 3 pieces of advice there.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Firms.
All right, the law firm website is
AZAlaw.com.
AZAlaw.com. They can find Sammy Ford there with all his contact info if anyone wants to hire you for any type of case. And we really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Is the art collection still in the lobby?
It is. There's even more art. I'll make sure that you all get invited to the Christmas party so you can.
Yeah, we'd love
the
to.
Expansion.
Did any of the AZA partners make you go to the Greek festival this weekend?
No one made me. I was out of town, but everyone gets tickets. Mm-hmm. So it is a.
I think I used some AZA tickets this weekend.
That makes sense. Good.
And
did you get your plate?
I got my
plate. He posted it. Ask wherever you get your podcast. Bill, I think I covered it all.
Nailed it.
Good job. Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Good night.